Hello everybody, this is a lecture on power sharing. So in this lecture, we will basically focus on why power sharing is important in a democracy, how different countries approached this concept of power sharing and what were the consequences of it. So here we will basically take the case study of two countries. First one is Belgium and second one is Sri Lanka. Then we will see what is the need of power sharing, why power sharing is very much required in the democracy and how it empower it. And then we'll come to the types of power sharing. Basically these are a model in which different countries operate their power sharing models. So let's get started to it. First we will take the case of Belgium. So Belgium is a country in continental Europe. So guys, if you're not aware of continental Europe, then let me give a very brief introduction of it. Continental Europe comprises of those countries which are present in the western part of Europe, basically France, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, Switzerland, and there's always a lot of politics going on in this continental Europe. So Belgium is a very special case. How it is a special case? Let's look at it. So see, Belgium have a capital and rest of the countries. So the ethnic composition of the rest of the country except capital is this. So majority of the people are Dutch speaking, that is 59%. Then next to that came French speaking, that is 40%, and only 1% people speak German. Now why this kind of division is there? Because as you can see in the previous slide, Belgium share its border with Germany, France, Netherlands and Luxembourg. So in Netherlands the major language or dialect is Dutch. In Germany the major dialect is German, and in France the major dialect is French. So thus the Belgium as a whole share people from all the three countries because of its historical background and have a very complex ethnic composition. As we can see here, Dutch speaking means people who come from Netherlands are 59%, French speaking means people who migrated from France is 40%, and 1% is the German speaking. But the Brussels have just a reverse ethnic composition. That means in Brussels the majority people is French and minority is Dutch. Thus it creates a very peculiar form of composition in which a country's capital have a different ethnic composition and rest of the country have a different ethnic composition. It creates a huge challenge in governance of the country. So let us see how this country tackled this challenge. So what is the problem with the Brussels, with the Belgium? First is, who will form the government at Brussels? That means if French people form the governance in Brussels, then Dutch people will get upset because they will think that French people will apply only those policies which are beneficial for the French people. Similarly, if Dutch people form a government in Brussels, then we can say the French people will get upset. So this is the major complex conundrum. Conundrum basically means a question or a dilemma. So how Belgium overcome this very complex problem, that is the very innovative thing which we'll learn in this chapter. So first thing that Belgium recognizes is regional differences. So guys, regional differences recognition is very much important. It is as important as identifying the problem. For example, let us take the very recent example in which if a person is having a cold or if a person is having, God forbid it should not happen, if a person is having corona infection and if he doesn't or she doesn't acknowledge the problem, then there is no cure of it. So thus regional differences was the truth of that nation, that there are regional differences, and thus the leader of that country accepted it. Second thing, after accepting the problem, they started working on it by amending their constitution. So constitution basically is the law of the land. So they amended their constitution. So how they amended it? So basically they made these very important amendment. First of all, the minister who speak Dutch and the minister who speak French at central level will be equal. Means if there are 100 ministers in the central government, then 50 ministers will come from Dutch speaking and 50 ministers will come from French speaking. Okay. Then power to state government is given more. Okay. Then Brussels, which have a very unique ethnic composition, have its own separate government. And community government, that is the local government, in which the more power is given to local government, which is elected directly by the people, is given more power. In India also, guys, we have a concept of local government, which is called urban local bodies or municipal corporation and panchayati raj institution or panchayat system. Now that is the thing that Brussels did to solve its complex problem of power sharing between the different communities. Now let us take the case study of Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka is a country which share its which we India share as a neighbor. So before going to the ethnic composition, let me tell you a very brief history of Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka was, as we all know, and if some of you don't know, let me tell you, Sri Lanka was previously a colony of British Empire. So British Empire took many Tamils from the then Madras province. So Madras province comprises of Andhra, some part of Karnataka, some part of Kerala and major part of Tamil Nadu. So Madras province, the labor was forcefully migrated to Sri Lanka for working in the gardens or tea gardens or plantation workers. So this is called indenture laborers, means they are forced laborers. So after the migration, see here where India is, and then you can see the northern part of Sri Lanka and some middle part of Sri Lanka, there are Tamilians in major community. Why? Because these are the Tamilians who actually were migrated forcefully by the British Empire to work in plantation. Then rest of the purple color is Sinhalese, or then people of native of Sri Lanka. But a very peculiar ethnic composition is there. In the center, where the actual power is, Indian Tamils are having a huge majority. So means these are the Tamilians who are very literate and they have maximum power of central, and they are the high ranking officer in civil government, they are the high ranking officer in military administration. So that create a very peculiar problem for administration. Why? Because every other community is thinking that the policies that government is taking should not favor other community but should favor me first. Okay, so here as we can see, the northern and the middle part and the central part is basically Tamilians. In northern and middle part, they are Sri Lankan Tamils. That means the Tamils who have their birth in Sri Lanka itself, and yellow part is the Indian Tamils. That means still migration, right now migration is not happening, but they have their pedigree from the Indian Tamil families. And then the purple color is the Sinhalese, or the population which actually practice Buddhism. And we have green color, which is a tribe, a Sri Lankan Mole tribe, and white color where there is no majority as such, means it's a mixed race. Mixed race in the sense there is no majority of any of these community, means there is no majority of Tamil, there is no majority of Sri Lankan Tamil, there is no majority of Sinhalese, means the composition of the area is mixed. So it create a huge problem for administration. So how does Sri Lanka overcome this problem? So the way Sri Lanka overcome this problem is very much different from the way in which Belgium overcome its problem. So what Sri Lankan government did is they started taking Majoritarian steps which upset the Tamils of northern and the central part, and as a result a huge civil war occurred between the LTTE. The LTTE is actually a group which was fighting for Tamil liberation, as they said them. So LTTE is actually a recognized terrorist group against which Indian peacekeeping force was sent in the reign of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. And because of this whole mess, it has been alleged that Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated by Tamil Tigers. So what was the aim of Tamil Tigers? Is to create a golden state for Tamil. So basically they were struggling for regional autonomy. That means decision to make regional autonomy means they will make their own decisions in their own state. And second is recognizing Tamil as a state language, or we can say as a language of a country. So these are the two aims for which the Tamil Tigers were fighting for. But it created huge differences between the Sri Lankan administration and LTTE. As a result, there was a lot of fighting for 20-30 years, and the main culprit Prabhakaran was killed. Post that, many of the Tamil Tiger fighters were trialed as a war crime, and then very recently in UN there was a vote which happened in which India voted against against Sri Lankan government. So that is a different field, we can discuss it later. So because of this war happened, and still peace has not been restored in that country. So what are the takeaways? Takeaways in the sense, we saw two countries. First one is Belgium, second one is Sri Lanka. They both dealt with the same problem in a very different way. So the question we should ask here is, what is the takeaway, or what can we conclude from it? So first conclusion, of course, is nobody like violence. Everybody want to live. So we should take a solution which do not involve war, right? So the first takeaway, or why power sharing is important in present democratic setup, is first, it's a prudential reason. Prudential reason in the sense ki power sharing is good because it reduces the possibility of conflict between the social groups. It means if power sharing has been good in Sri Lanka, or the regional differences, if the government could have recognized, they could have worked out the constitution such that Sri Lankan Tamils will also get their right along with the Sinhalese, right? Sri Lankan government did like that, and result was civil war. Belgium government did like that, and the result was a peaceful transition from a confused government to a confident government, right? Second one is power sharing is the spirit of democracy. So guys, I'll make a different lecture on spirit of democracy. The basic idea for the spirit of democracy is, democracy as a setup have basic core values. So those core values guide democratic country to have their administration in a certain way. Power sharing is one such core value. Because of power sharing, different community come together, collaborate, discuss the problem, and live peacefully. So these are the two reasons why power sharing is very important. Now let us see what are the different models of power sharing. So first, power can be shared between different organ of a government. For example, if we take the case of India, Indian government basically comprises of central government, state government. Okay, inside center and state government there are two set of bodies, or actually three set of bodies. First one is legislative, that is a body which will make law. Indian Parliament, both the houses, lower house and upper house, is the legislative body of India. Similarly, state assemblies. Some state have two assemblies, some state have only one assembly. State assembly are the legislative body of a state. Supreme Court in the center, High Court in the state are the judiciary body. So like this, there is always a check and balance between all the three bodies. Executive body is that body which implement the law which has been formulated by the executive. What is the role of judiciary body? The judiciary body makes sure that constitution has been upheld in formation of laws and in implementation. So basically, judiciary is the manipulator of Indian constitution. Then power can be shared between different levels, right? So at the center, India being a federal country have a central government. Then central government have some power, and those power are enumerated in a list which is called center list or list 1. Then there is a state government. State government have some power in which central government cannot interfere in some extraordinary circumstances. So central government actually can interfere, but it usually don't. Except emergency and presidential rule, central government cannot interfere in the powers of state government. So the power which state government enjoy is listed in a list or a schedule, which is called state list or list 2. Then there is another list which is called concurrent list. So the third list, the things enumerated in that list or schedule, both center and state government can make laws on it. Okay, then there is a fourth list which is called residuary list. So residuary list is that a list in which power which has not been listed either in center list or list 1, or in state list or list 2, or in concurrent list or list 3 is listed in residuary list, and the power to make laws on that subject is to center. So that is how the distribution of power is. So between the different between a government at a different level. So power is shared among different social groups. So just like we have seen in Belgium, French speaking group and Dutch speaking group shared a power through the tool of government. So that is how power is shared in different groups. Now power is shared by the way of pressure group, political parties and movement. So recently farmers protest has been in news, especially in India. So farmers protest created a huge pressure on government, both center and state government, to implement the policies which favors them. So this created a pressure on government which actually culminated in government agreeing that we will amend the bill. So actually power has been shared by the protesters and the government, and that sharing of power resulted in amendment of the bill. So this is how the power sharing concepts work in modern day democracies. So thank you very much for watching the lecture. I hope all of you are doing good, and please don't go out, venture out. Please don't venture out. These are very extraordinary times. We need to take care of our health. Thank you and bye.